Welcome back. Use case development's an important step for agencies in using AI, but it's only one step. And agency leaders all over government caution their teams that AI is just a tool to improve applications and mission delivery. Kaschit Pandya is Chief Technology Officer at IRS. Fred Collins is Distinguished Engineer for the U.S. Federal Market for IBM Consulting. Gentlemen, welcome. Thanks for joining me. Kaschit, I start with you. To that point, where does AI fit into the spectrum now, the landscape of the technologies that you're using at IRS, given that you have legacy tech and you have some of the cutting-edge tools like AI?
Absolutely. AI is something that is not unfamiliar to the IRS. We have been leveraging AI in the traditional sense for decades, in fact. What we have been using is machine learning. Generative AI, on the other hand, is the new kid on the block, coming out relatively a couple of years ago, and it's created a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of buzz around the industry, personally and professionally, for all of us. And we are equally excited on how we want to leverage it. But we want to do it meaningfully, we want to do it methodically, and we want to do it intelligently. We have been applying AI and considering where and which cases we want to apply it against taxpayer services, back office operations. Because it can play such a pivotal role in how we provide services to our taxpayers as well as our back office operations, we're looking at it through the lens of where and how best to optimize, which means finding the right use cases. We want to make sure we're solving for a problem that we have versus AI being the hammer, looking for the nails to solve. So in that sense, whether it's legacy optimization or code conversion or looking for opportunities for us to do something with the taxpayer services, first identify the problem, then determine whether or not the technology can help solve that problem.
You hit on something there, Kaschit, that I think is a misconception. I think there are a lot of folks that think that AI broadly is relatively new, and organizations like yours and others across government have been using it for a really long time in many cases.
Absolutely. We, and you heard from Reza earlier in the conversation, our RAS team, the research and analytics team, has been using AI and doing modeling and machine learning. We have been applying AI to identify fraud, for example. So machine learning is something that is not new to us. It's been used for many decades now. Generative AI is still in its infancy, but it is growing rapidly, and the enthusiasm around which it is being touted has generated not just the buzz, but has opened up a lot of different opportunities and possibilities of how best we can apply it. But once more, AI, like cloud, like any other technology, is a tool that can help you solve a problem as long as you've identified the problem first.
And identifying the problem first, it strikes me, Fred, is the major challenge. We learned about that earlier in the program. Is that what you see generating the buzz, the enthusiasm that Kaschit talked about? Or is the chain different? I guess it's a chicken or egg question, kind of, isn't it?
So one of the use cases that Kaschit mentioned was code modernization, and the fact that this is an extension of human capability. It's human augmentation, not human replacement. So we're using generative AI as an extension for code modernization. We take an approach that's based in data science and linguistic theory, and we essentially reverse engineer the code into a language neutral model, much the way that a human who was bilingual could have multiple languages in their brain. We're able to have multiple languages in this model. And then we extract from that pseudocode and some initial Java code. Where the Gen AI comes into place is not to be like a one-stop, the code going through it. It's to augment what comes out of the traditional methods and generate natural language, generate well-structured Java. So it really greatly speeds up a laborious process. It allows us, I mean, it took years, and this really makes it a lot faster. And as an engineer, it allows you to focus on more creative, higher order activities rather than just being bogged down in it. It's really that augmentation that, for me, is exciting about where we're going with this.
From an engineer, did you want to follow on?
Just, I think Fred touched on a really critical point, which is whether it's us applying AI to do fraud detection or back office optimization. We also have AI that help with voice bots, chat bots. There's always a human element involved. always a human. So all those responses that you receive from your voice bots or your chat bots, there is a subject matter expert behind the scenes that is generating those responses that we're feeding into the AI. So the human element isn't lost, regardless of which technology, regardless of where we are applying that AI.
The concept of integrating artificial intelligence solutions into some legacy systems has been challenging, Fred, for agencies all across government.
Right.
Where have you seen that work well? What are the commonalities among the organizations who have done that well and have had success doing so?
So I think there is this way, doing it in a structured fashion, doing it in a safe fashion. So like generally the data tends to be the most sensitive. So using synthetic data, taking proxies for the code, maybe not the actual code, and then running it through an experiment and seeing, will this work? What type of benefit that you do? The other thing is you want to compare it with human methods. I mean, we mentioned sort of pair programming, the human always being in the loop, the fact that it's human augmentation, not human replacement, but you want to see, is it a case that's worth doing? Don't just, just because it's good from an AI perspective, look at what your real pain points were. For us at the IRS, it was extremely time consuming. There were certain tasks that were taking a very long time, and we found those use cases which were of high value, which we could do in a secure fashion and generated results that were meaningful, that had actual cost savings and time savings, and the results mirrored that of their human counterparts. And really it was the right use case, doing it in a secure fashion, in a fashion that had governance, and one that yielded the results that we could measure against actual, the human augmentation that occurred.
Those kinds of gains, Kaschit, it strikes me, there's two tracks here that you're thinking about. You're thinking about the way that AI integrates with the modernization effort that you're undertaking. And I imagine there is also a train of thought about how do we use AI to actually drive that modernization effort. That's something that might be a little newer. You said this is something you've been doing for a while, but maybe that piece of it is not quite as common.
Right, so driving modernization through AI, and Fred touched on it, we have a large legacy environment, and it is not any different than what other government agencies have, and I'm sure private industry is similarly. It's been built over many, many decades, and it was built using the best technology available at the time. However, that technology is not compatible with the more modern solutions that are available. Bridging the gap between that legacy and the more modern is always a challenge. Where we have looked for the right use cases for applying AI is how do you transform the legacy solutions and systems to the more modern. Now, there's no magic bullet with AI. You can't simply take the code from those old systems, apply AI, and voila, out it's the new. But what it has helped us with, AI specifically, and generative AI, is that it has allowed us to extract business logic from these older systems. That business logic is then used by our developers to write the more modern code against that logic. So we have seen tremendous gains from business extraction or the logic extraction, and then translation to the new language. We've seen it cut down from our ability to generate new code from days to hours on many occasions. And then one additional piece there is, as a former developer, is documentation. Always a bane of existence for developers, and we are seeing how much time it saves our developers by automatically letting it create those documentations and focus on programming rather than having to take the time, set it aside, and write the document.
You talked earlier in the conversation, Kaschit, about how you're looking at AI through both a back office lens and a customer-facing lens. Do you have to take different things into consideration depending on which application or which direction you're going to push an application?
Absolutely. So when we look at back office operations, we want to look at where are those pain points that could be optimized by applying AI. Again, coming back to many references, whether it was Vanessa or Reza and Fred here, use case identification is key. So we want to find where optimization could be achieved through applying this technology. And in many cases, it is often a monotonous task that is identified. How many hours are we going to save by applying some automation and AI against it? what can we also do that enables our internal customers, therefore, to benefit from the efficiencies, and then in turn help the taxpayers? So we're being a bit cautious right now in how we apply AI to taxpayer-facing services, and rightfully so. It's still a maturing technology, generative AI is, and it's changing rapidly and evolving fast. But it also comes with its own challenges, whether it's bias or hallucinations and drift. All of these things have to be taken into consideration. And with those considerations, we want to be careful about what we expose our taxpayers to, because they're looking to us to make sure that when they come to IRS, what data they're receiving is absolutely 100% accurate and factual.
Fred, is this the point in the process that Kaschit just laid out there? Is this the point where agencies should be thinking about the business processes as well as the technological processes to determine, do we still really need to take however many steps that we're taking to reach whatever the end is? Is this the place to do that?
Absolutely. I mean, one of the neat things about what we're doing at the IRS is, assembly language, as Kaschit pointed out, it's extremely difficult. It's machine language. And and you could probably fit all the ALC experts that exist in the world in this studio. Okay, there are not that many of them. So we convert it into a natural language, into business rules. Once you expose it from code into business rules, you can really think about reimagining those business processes. But you have to be able to see it, and that's one of the things where instead of like doing a one-for-one type of a conversion effort, which I just do not recommend to anyone, you really want to take that time to re-engineer, to reimagine it as a modern process and extract that, why do if you have an assembly report that's generated in assembly code, why would you do it as Java? Why not do it as Tableau, Databricks? Reimagine it as a modern system, not a one-for-one reproduction. And that is what the IRS is doing. And that's why I'm so excited in working with them, is they allowed us to really, do this type of re-engineering type of an effort the right way that it needs to be done.
So the other thing that I hear when you describe the way that you go about doing that, Kaschit, is you must not just have technology people at the table when you're having these conversations. You're having mission delivery partners at the table so that when that result comes out as Fred just described it, they can say, oh, you know what, we don't have to do it this way anymore.
Absolutely, and I think that is such a key point. There was the older model and approach, which is, as a technologist, when we look at system modernizations, we think about how do we rewrite the code, how do we take it from beginning all the way to the end in one fell swoop over a period of many, many years, and our customers will wait to reap the benefits once we're done with that modernization. The newer approach, the more traditional approach that we are now implementing and leveraging, it's an enterprise technology planning approach. We as an agency have to get together, not just as IT individuals, but IT, our business partners, the right senior leadership, making sure that we are all aligned on what we're trying to achieve. And then technology is more of an enabler for those outcomes rather than the leader, where again, we will implement and somebody will eventually benefit and use it, versus what is it that the business customers want, what is it our taxpayers can benefit from. Start with that in mind, apply the right technology to achieve that outcome.
Did that require either formally you or your mission partners to recreate governance, to recreate any policy, or did it just require a more informal process of, oh, we need to make sure that all of these people are involved, that all of these people are informed moving forward?
No, it absolutely required us to view that through the lens of transformation. And in doing so, we established a transformation office. The transformation office recognized that there are multiple business units, multiple functional and operational units, each which has the ultimate agenda of serving the taxpayer and helping the agency, but their focus areas are different. Transformation office was stood up so that it can bring all of them together, help us identify and prioritize what is it that we as an agency want to deliver, and again, heavily focused on taxpayer services and experience, and then within those, how can we achieve those outcomes, what role IT will play through its technology development and solution to help us achieve them.
Kaschit, Fred, it's great to have both of you on the program today. Thanks very much for joining me. I appreciate you being here. You can read more at fedgovtoday.com. Up next, the people piece of this technology breakthrough, AI for agencies, will continue in a moment.